Here's how the first rein ended up looking. I found that it was a little weird here, so you can just pull it a little bit tighter there, and that seemed to straighten it out. So now we're going to take our, need to have my single strand of floss ready for tacking. So I need to get that knot in there. And now we need to thread up one of the short cords here. Get that back in our big needle. This needle happens to be a very large eye, and it's kind of a darning needle. It's got a blunt end, and it seems to be working really, really well as far as going under the pieces of felt and stuff. It's not the easiest to thread, though. There we go. Okay. Now let's go back to our directions here. We were saying that it is telling us now. In fact, I think I'm going to use my pencil and check off what we've done. So we've done all of that first one. Now we're threading the larger needle with one of the smaller pieces of cording. Got it. We're going to start at J. J is right here under the first reindeer's chin, and we're going to go J to K. Let's do that. J to K. Okay, and then we can mark that off. So here we are. I don't even see a second line there for it to cover, so I think we just kind of just go there to there. Okay. I don't think it even needs anything tacked down. It's just right there. So we've done J to K, and now we need to come out at L and lay the cording on the stocking and insert the needle at M. L, okay, here in the back, and M. Okay, so we are under here. We are going to go to L, which is right here on his behind here. Okay. And go in at M, which is right here on his chest. And I believe that's gonna, that's gonna need a little tacking there to make sure that it stays on top of that white line. Looks like it's gonna need another one right here. It's gonna be a little looser. There we go. And I'm gonna do another one right here, where it comes back in, where it's just this. Oops. Right. That's what that looks like. So let's check off. We did L and we did M. Now we're going to go in at N. Oh, up here and around his snout. Okay. That makes good sense. Okay, so we're going to go right here. Oops. Oops, now I see that white line. I may have to rub that off right here under his snout there, or under his chin, and now up top right there. Okay, I'm going to get out my tacking needle again. It's right there, and it's up here. Okay. All right, now N and O. Now we're supposed to knot the cord on the back of the stocking and thread the other. Okay, so that we're done with this thread right here. Now it looks like it got caught in there. Go. Now, knotting this is not going to be easy. I am going to tie a knot as close to where it comes out as possible. I made it kind of tight. Let's see, it didn't move it. Okay. And now I'm going to take my tacking thread and I'm going to actually tack that knot down and knot my tacking thread. And then I am going to snip off my tacking thread here, and I'm going to snip off past the knot of that cording. So that can go there, and now we have one more. One more line of cording to complete. So we will get it threaded. Get it threaded in here. Okay. And we will start the next section, which says, thread the larger needle with the last piece of cording. Insert the needle from the back at P. Oh, right here. The end of the third reindeer at P, and then in at Q. And then in at Q. In his hand, Q. That's up here, right here. And then we'll go down, excuse me, and then back out at R, tie a knot about close to the left side of the glove and trim away the excess. Okay, so let's start at P here, and we'll go to the center of his glove. Okay, so P is going to be right here. And I think I'm gonna tack it down as we go so that I know just how tightly it needs to be done. Okay. And then right here. If you get a little loop like that, just give it a little pull. And then let's see, where am I here? Okay, I think I'm going to go right here to right by where his glove is. Okay, and then it says we should go down right here, kind of in the ball of his glove right there. Okay. And then we want to come out right here. So you have to be a little careful not to get the tacking needle and this needle wound up together, and it needs to be tacked. Let's see, right here as it comes out of his hand. And then right here. I'm going to tack along as far as I see the white lines, the dashed white line. And then I will tie the knot, because I don't want that dashed line to show. Okay. Now I'm going to knot off my tacking here so that I can get it out of the way. And I'm being pretty careful not to pull it too tight. Because I did notice that when I pulled my tacking tightly, it kind of made a dent in the cording, and that didn't look right. Okay, so I'm going to unthread it, and we're going to give it a knot, just a regular old knot here, so that it can't come untwisted, and get it tight. And then I'll trim it just past the knot. And there we have it. Okay, so we start up here and around and around and around down here in Santa's hand. And that's it. So we are finished with the front of the stocking, except for the name. Again, I still don't have a name for this stocking. So I will show you what I'm going to do. When I don't have the name, I go ahead and complete the stocking, because a lot of times I make stockings to sell, and of course this one is to sell, but it has already been sold, so it is a special order. And so when I do a special order, I usually have the name, but this time I don't. So what I have done is I have cut out the stocking back. You can see here, stocking backing. And before I do anything to apply the two together, I have to get my lining ready. So I'll grab my lining. There we go. And I use the back of the stocking as my pattern for my material. So what I have on top here is the Grinch. I found some fun fabric at Hobby Lobby. for Christmas this year. Got myself a few yards of it while it was on sale. So this is my the Grinch Stole Christmas fabric. So I think I usually buy 1 yard at a time. Now this fabric is going to be a bit of a challenge for me. I should have looked at it because it has a direction. It needs to go right side up. So I'm probably not going to get as many linings out of this fabric as I would if it was non-directional. Normally I work with material that is non-directional, a plaid or just a little Christmas print. Now, you're going to lay your stocking back down as your pattern and make sure that you leave about 1 inch at the top. Okay. And then I like to have my pattern pinned, so I'm going to put a few pins here so that when I'm cutting it doesn't shift. Although, like I said, felt is usually pretty good at not shifting. And normally I could get another stocking right here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to, maybe if I tilt it, because I can, twist them upside down and right side up. There we go. I've got it over a little bit better. Okay. And so you need to leave about 1 inch at the top. And you're going to cut, only about 1/4 of an inch away from the edge of this piece, this backing piece, as your pattern. Okay, so I'm going to start at the top. I usually use my large pair of fabric scissors, but I'll see how these little ones do. Get it laid out nice and flat and start up here at the top here, leaving this inch, do not cut it, but then going just about 1/4 of an inch to the outside of your stocking backing piece. And it's not precise or exact, but then I'm going to take this over to my sewing machine. I like to use my serger because it does do the overcast stitch, and then I know that the edges are not going to fray. And I like to select a fabric that is primarily a lighter color, like you could line it with a dark green, or you could line it in this case with maybe just a plain dark blue, because the back of the stocking is dark blue. Not the back, the backing of the front, the front, major front piece. But I never know what the back of the stocking is going to be, and in this case it's going to be white, so it is going to probably show through a bit, so but really it really doesn't matter, but that's why I usually choose a lighter color rather than like a deep forest green or a navy blue, but all those would work just as well. Really kind of depends on your stocking, and honestly, when you hang your stockings, you really never see the back, so the backs of the stockings that I've made for my family really don't ever get seen, so it doesn't matter. And truth be known, I didn't line any of the stockings I made for my children because I didn't know anything about that. This has been kind of a new thing for me. That that I have begun to do as I started stockings, because a lot of the people that sell their stockings lined them, and I thought, oh, I better get with the program. So I did. And I save all my pieces and scraps. Okay, and now this is ready to be sewn. I do need to turn it so that you stitch it right sides together, because like this, right sides together, and stitch this. And now again, I said I'm going to use my serger. You can use a regular sewing machine and a straight stitch. You can even sew this by hand. It's really very, very forgiving, and you're just going to do about 1/4 of an inch is what I do, 1/4, 3/8 of an inch around, all the way around, leaving the top open. And then you can just slide it down. It's ready to go, because you can see when you open it, you'll fold down these top edges, this inch that you left up here, and when you open inside the stocking, you've got the design. Okay, so that's that. I'll show it to you after it's stitched here, but I'm gonna throw a few pins in it just to make sure it doesn't shift when I stitch it. And then we're going to go ahead and get ready to apply the back of the stocking to the front that we've worked so hard on and gotten so beautiful. I need one more pin here. Okay. So I will take that over to the serger and do that. But now we are going to lay the backing down and place the front of the stocking on top. I try to match it up as best I can, but as you can see right here, the top is not quite lined up, and we've got a little extra on the edge. No worries, extra is good. Extra just gets cut away after you're done stitching. So extra is no worries, and that extra comes from all of the applique that you've done. You've kind of all those stitches and things that have gone on to the stocking cause it to kind of pull in, or to, it's not really puckered at all, but it does cause it to pull in, and so it may not line up perfectly. But get it lined up as best you can. And then we're going to thread up an embroidery needle, and I'm going to use the dark blue because I'm going to match the dark blue that we've got here on a large portion actually of this stocking. Okay, and then I'll go through and show you how we're going to sew that up. So let's get it pinned down nice and ready. And because we're going to hand sew this, we can not worry about pinning and where we're pinning, because we're just going to stitch it by hand. Okay, and they did give us, I haven't used any of this navy floss that they gave us, so I am thinking that they gave it to us to do just this. So we're going to take a single strand, just like we always do, and double it, because this is what is holding your stocking together. So you do want to make sure that it is well secured. So I am going to condition that floss as well. My goal was to have this stocking completed by the end of February so that I could start the next stocking for this order in March and hopefully complete it. Now, this stocking was 109 pieces, and the next one is 160. I don't know if it's 160 even, I don't remember, or 160 plus a couple. So it will be a more advanced stocking, but I've got a great client who this will be. This was the third stocking I made for her, and we're going to start the fourth. And then we'll see where we go from there. Well, I cannot seem to see to thread that needle. Okay, got it. Finally. Now, I had a comment from a viewer that said that you don't need to worry too much about the stitching of the back to the front because it really doesn't. It's not what is supporting the stocking if you line it. And that's true, but I still like to work as though I might not line it, you know. And I will from now on always line what I make, but I don't like it to be potentially a problem if the lining is removed or there's an issue with the lining. So we're going to do a seamstress stitch. That's what I call it. It's a hand stitch for a seam, and we're going to come up from the back and down the bottom. And now I want to be really careful. I'm going to do this stitch right here a couple of times because it is at the top edge of your stocking that your stocking is most vulnerable. So I've got 3 of those stitches right in the same place right there. Okay, let me move the camera down a bit so that maybe you can see a little better. Now, I'm going to come up. I'm working on a stitch. I want to be about 1/4 of an inch away from the edge. And so now I'm going to come up a little ways down from where I was. You can see that. And go down back where I came out with a previous stitch. So that I'm making a stitch that has no space. So I'm coming up and going back where that last stitch ended so that my stitching, you can see in the back here, will be solid. I moved over a bit from there, it looks like. Okay, and so I'm going to keep going about 1/4 of an inch and then back. I have to kind of scoot under that sequin there. And now this leaf is somewhat tacked down. So what I need to do when I've got a piece on top that is, I don't want to put the blue thread on. I'm going to come up here. This one I can kind of pull the leaf back and then go down. But you'll see later when we get to where there's really a solid piece there, how we can stitch it. I'm trying to make my stitches, you know, about 1/4 of an inch apart. Now when we get here away from that first corner, we can do in and out. So I'm going to go in where this stitch left off and come out about 1/4 of an inch past where that thread is. And again, about 1/4 of an inch away from the edge of the stocking. Lots of 1/4 inches. I guess that's my favorite measurement. And I do pull this fairly tight. I don't want it to pucker, but I do want it to be strong and tight. And we're coming up to the antler here, where I can show you what I do when I come up to a piece that I do not want my stitching over top of. I'm going to come up right by his antler. Now, I'm going to go down and pull that through. And I'm going to turn to the back side here. And I want to go, I'm going to go through the, I want to go just through the white and the blue. Okay. And you can see that got tacked. And I'm going to do a couple of those here and make sure that I didn't go through. Nope, I didn't go through. Okay. And now I think I am right here, so I can come out right underneath his antler there and continue to do my stitching in and out until I come to the next piece where I need to just pick up the white and the blue. And that will be fairly easy on his head here because he is stuffed. It's more difficult when the piece that you're trying not to catch is not stuffed. So be right here next to his nose. I'll go down. Okay, so that stitch is finished. And now turn it to the back. And I'm going to stitch just into the blue. Make sure that you caught it. Not sure I caught it with down. I'm going to pick up the blue and the white, and that's it. And I don't trim off the excess felt until I have completely finished stitching. We're ready to show you the stocking with the front and back sewn together. There it is. And I have taken a moment and trimmed away any of the excess backing material so that it does not stick out beyond the main front of the stocking. Just trim very carefully. Use your small scissors, and you can see here, just kind of try to keep right to the edge of the front of the stocking. Don't try to go less than that. And then I always like to put my hand down in the stocking a bit making sure that everything is attached. I don't have any spaces or gaps or something that I've missed. Now you can see I have used my serger and overlocked the lining material. That just pull the pins out, and you don't even turn it right side out. You leave it inside out like that, and stick your hand down inside into the toe, and then insert it into the stocking. Get your hand down all the way into the toe, making sure that your lining fabric is as flat as you can get it. It may not be perfectly flat, but that is fine. It's just part of the character of the stocking that it has a little bit of a bulk to it, well, let's say. And flatten it out. Make sure that you still have about an inch up at the top to fold down and hem. And just keep working it until you feel that you've got the fabric in there just the way you want it. Now it's time to fold down this lining fabric down toward the felt so that your raw edges are between the lining fabric and the felt. And the first thing I like to do is line up my side seams, get the lining fabric down about 1/4 of an inch below the edge of the felt. So it's going to be kind of right about below where that those sequins are on the front, and on the back that you have about 1/4 of an inch below just the edge of the felt. Now, after I get the side seams lined up, I like to put a pin in the side seams just to hold them in place as I'm working with getting everything else lined up. You can see that here. I've got it about 1/4 of an inch below, and get a pin and line that up. Or if you happen to have those cool clips that they use for sewing now, I like those, but I don't have any yet. So one of these days. But yeah, get your side seams pinned together so that they're lined up. And then if you have some extra fabric, which I always do, I'm going to, once I've got the side seams lined up, I'm going to just pin the fabric along about 1/4 of an inch below the back edge of the stocking. And any extra fabric I should end up with once I get to the other side, I'm going to just take a little tuck in it and then keep stitching. And that allows it to just have some fullness on the inside if there is any extra fabric. And I'm going to use a blind hem to hem this. So on the back, I'm going to hem it with white, a double strand of white thread, or maybe I think I use a single strand of white thread and hem that with a blind hem. And then on the front, of course, I'm going to use the navy thread again. But in this particular case, since I don't have the name to go on it, I am going to leave the front unsewn, the front lining unsewn down. That way, that way I'll be able to get my hand down in there. See, you can see here where I'm going to make a little tuck right there at the side seam. But I do want to be able to get my hand down in there to be able to work on stitching the name on when I know what that's going to be. So in the meantime, I'm just going to turn it under, and I'll probably give it a pin, maybe two, just to keep it out of the way while I'm working on the back side. Here I'm getting my white thread, my white floss threaded up. It's a single strand to do the blind stitch. But has anybody noticed what I've forgotten? I know I haven't yet, but I will. Just give me a second. Okay, so this is the blind stitch. I'm going to go all the way through a couple of times right here with my matching white thread, and just give it a couple of regular whip stitches very close together. Then I'm going to begin the blind stitch. Sorry about that focus there. So we're going to pick up just a little piece of the white felt, and then I'm going to go into that fold of the lining fabric and just slide my needle along inside the fold, just maybe an 1/8 or 3/16 of an inch along, and then do that again right where my thread came out of the lining fabric. I'm going to take another little bite of the felt and then get my needle back into the fold of the lining fabric, and again another 1/8 3/16 bit, and come back out, and I go take a bite of the felt again right where my thread came out, and just continue all the way along the back till I get to the other side seam. And that is a blind hem, and that usually is if a little bit of your floss comes through on the back, it does match. It's very hard to see. It's usually virtually impossible, and you see nothing on the lining side because your thread is running along inside that fold. I've made it across to the other side seam, and now I'm going to give it a few just whip stitches before I knot it off to make sure that this is well secured right in that side seam and in the corner. And you can pretty much hide whatever stitching you're doing there in that corner. It won't show up too much. But I'm curious, have you figured out what it is I've forgotten yet? I haven't at this point, but I will in the next section. Trim off your thread, and again, you are going to, if you are finished with your name and you're ready to go on the front, you're just going to switch your thread to the navy thread and do the same thing across the front. You will be stitching just kind of right where those sequins, those white sequins are. So it's real easy to hide your stitches if there are any on the front side. So what did I forget? How are we going to hang this stocking? There's no tab to hook on your stocking hanger. Oh dear. I think I'm still clueless, believe it or not, and but I will get to it, I promise. Well, now that we've all noticed what I've forgotten, which is the hanging tab on this stocking, I'm going to get it out of my pieces box and cut it out. And the hanging tab is pretty simple. You just fold it in half, and I like to insert it right in the left corner, right at the side seam, right at next on the inside, on the back piece of the stocking, and right at the side seam, but again on the inside of the stocking. And then I will do a back stitch, which is the same stitch we used to do the side seams for the stocking, and I will make about a 1-inch square that I stitch the tab with. Now again, the tab is folded in half, and it is inserted right at the side seam on the inside and attached to the back of the stocking. So I'm going to use a double strand of white floss to do this, and I'm going to stitch a 1-inch square of the back stitch that we did to attach the sides of the stocking to the back. And I'm going to then, once I finish my square, then I'm going to stitch an X using the back stitch again, from corner to corner in that square. That really adds, because this is the place that's going to carry all the weight if your stocking ever gets any weight. I don't recommend it. We have Santa fill our stockings and then place them on our couch. And as people get up in the morning and want to know what's in their stocking, they're able to go to find their stocking on the couch and explore. And once they have explored their stockings, they're responsible to make sure it's empty and hang it back on the stocking hanger. So that's just our policy at our house, and Santa knows. He's totally cool with it. So I'll let you watch this stitching, and again, yes, I had finished sewing the lining in, so I did have to cut my stitching on the lining a bit, and in order to do this, to put the tab in. So please don't ever feel that I never make mistakes, because I make mistakes all the time. And here it is right on camera for everyone to see. You can see that I had to snip away the stitches I had done for the lining. So here I'm going to stitch that lining back up where it is supposed to be. And then the stocking is finished as much as it can be. You can see over here on my right hand side that I have a label, and I do put those labels into the crafts that I make. It's a Servant Crafts label, and that will be attached to only the lining and in the back side, inside the back lining inside of the stocking once I get it finished here. But we are done. We have finished the stocking, like I said, except for the name, and that will come later when I know it. And you are totally done with your stocking. You have done it. Congratulations. I applaud you. It is not easy. It's not simple, but it is easy. It's just one step at a time. It's just like walking. Just keep putting one more step, one more piece, one more stitch, and there you go. You're going to have a beautiful stocking made for Santa to fill and ready and lined for someone to treasure forever.